All righty. Welcome, everyone, as you trickle in here. We're so excited to have you. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to Stewart's Opera House's hosting of Spoken and Heard. My name is Devin Sudman. I am the Education Director here at Stewart's. I have black curly hair, light brown skin, and brown glasses. I'm wearing my black rimmed glasses, and I'm wearing my blue rain jacket tonight. Stewart's Opera House is committed to our mission to be a regional leader in the arts, a center for public expression, and an economic development partner for Southeast Ohio. We acknowledge that our historic theater sits on the traditional homelands of the Shawnee, Adena, and Hopewell peoples. We recognize the ever-present systemic inequalities that stem directly from this painful history of colonization, and we commit ourselves to respecting and reconciling this long history of injustice. Stewart's is committed to being more intentional in the role we can play for racial justice. We also commit to being more inclusive of people historically and currently marginalized based on identity, including gender, sexuality, class, and heritage. We wish to publicly express that hate and systemic oppression have no home in our organization. If we were physically in the Opera House, I would now ask anyone if this was your first time. So please feel free to make any physical adjustments you need if this is your first time at Stewart's, and let's clap or cheer wherever we are to make everyone feel welcome. So thank you for joining us. I'll be dropping a donation link here in the chat for Stewart's, and you can also visit our website to find more about upcoming events and educational opportunities. I will also be monitoring the chat this evening, as well as keeping an eye on the YouTube stream. And now, for what's most important, I want to introduce Carrie Gunter Seymour, your host this evening. Carrie Gunter Seymour is a 9th generation Appalachian. Her poetry collections include A Place So Deep Inside America It Can't Be Seen, Sheila and a Gig Editions 2020, and Serving, Crisis Chronicles Press 2020. Her work is firmly attached to her home soil and is an examination of the long-lasting effects of stereotypes and false narratives surrounding Appalachians. Her poems appear in numerous journals and publications, including Verse Daily, Rattle, DC Life Magazine, The New York Times, PBS American Portrait, and on her website, carriegunterseymourpoet.com, which I will also share in the chat. She is the founder and executive director of the Women of Appalachian Project and editor of the WOAP anthology series Women Speak, volumes 1 through 6. She is a retired instructor of the E.W. Scripps School of Journalism at Ohio University, the 2020 Ohio Poet of the Year, Poet Laureate of Ohio. And please welcome me in joining Carrie Gunter Seymour.
Hey, Devin, thank you so much. Oh, my goodness. Well, I want to send a big old thank you out to you, Devin, and Stewart's Opera House and the staff for hosting us this evening. I want to mention that these events are archived on Stewart's YouTube page and on my Facebook page shortly after the event is finished. So if you have friends and family and colleagues who couldn't be with us tonight, they can watch and enjoy it at their leisure. So I also want to send out a special thank you to our ASL interpreters tonight, Nico and Joe. And there is no doubt about it, they are dancers of words, and we are so grateful to have them. I am a pale-skinned woman with longish, straight, gray, streaked hair. I don't like to admit that, but it is the truth. I wear glasses. The rims are tinted dark green, and I'm wearing a pink mock turtleneck blouse with 3/4 length sleeves and burgundy and white flowers. And they look kind of like cherry blossoms, which is okay by me because I think it's perfect for this cold, rainy day in southeastern Ohio, because that's what we have today. It's been a little bit miserable. So tonight, I'm so happy to be here. We have 4 outstanding reader performers with us tonight. The poets Nicole Brown and Jessica Jacobs, plus singer-songwriter, writer-poets Thomas Allen Holmes and Michael Amos Cody. Now you can find links to our guest books and CDs on Stewart's Opera House homepage and clicking on the arts education link, and then scroll down a little bit. And I'm also going to place links in the chat for those of you who are here tonight and want to purchase these books right now. As we all know, more than ever, our universities and small presses need our support. So let's do that, please. And I'd like to remind everyone to add your comments for each of our featured readers in the chat box as they present their work. And then we'll have a short Q&A after the readings. So be thinking of your questions and get ready to put those in the Q&A or in the chat window. And what I do after our performers have finished, I invite a few folks from the audience to take advantage of our pop-up mic. And those with poems or a very short story or song are welcome, but you need to carry on the narrative that has been begun by those who are featured this evening. So this is our last event for the fall season. So it's a bittersweet evening together, and I look forward to seeing everyone back here in the spring when I will host even more amazing poets and musicians such as Rattle's Tim Green, Knoxville's own Linda Parsons and Stella Sue Leaf, fresh out of Kentucky, Barnard Clay, and Appalachia's own Marianne Worthington and Doug Van Gundy. And that's just a few. There's going to be more. So it's going to be glorious, let me tell you. So kind of get those thoughts in your head and on your calendar, and I'll be marketing those soon. And now, Thomas Allen Holmes is a literature professor at East Tennessee State University. He has most recently co-edited The Fire That Breaks, Gerard Manley Hopkins' Poetic Legacies with Daniel Westover through Clemson Press, as well as the Appalachian Theater issue of the Iron Mountain Review. Allen has published in such journals as Poetry Review, Appalachian Heritage, the North American Review, Appalachian Journal, and Still the Journal. His first poetry collection, In the Backhoe's Shadow, is scheduled for an early 2022 release from Iris Press. Now, I first met Allen Holmes through his work in Still the Journal and Appalachian Heritage, and I always read his work with great anticipation, and he is a marvelous, marvelous poet, among other things, including a musician. And then I had the chance to meet him in person as we were both staffing book tables at the Appalachian Studies Association conference a few years ago. I can tell you he is super talented and just as super modest, and I hold him in the highest regard. And his cohort, Michael Amos Cody, is the author of the novel Gabriel's Songbook, and of late, A Twilight Reel Stories. His short fiction and poems have appeared in Tampa Review, the Chaffin Journal, the Southern Poetry Anthology, Howl, Potpourri, and Fury. He teaches American literature before 1900, Native American literature, and mythology in the Department of Literature and Language at East Tennessee State University. So as we do these days, I became friends with Michael on Facebook, and I have discovered, to my joy, that the man knows how to bring light into a room. So I am so pleased, and it goes without saying, when these two get together, they kick up their heels and make a mighty fine ruckus. It's my pleasure to welcome Allen Holmes and Michael Cody.
Okay, are we?
We're on.
We're on. We're not muted. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Alan. This is Michael. We're in Michael's office. We're on the East Tennessee State University campus right now in Johnson City, Tennessee. Johnson City is in the very northeast tip of Tennessee. We're about an hour away from Asheville. We're about 90 minutes away from Knoxville. We're terrifically close to Bristol, and not so far away from Dollywood. So we're just right there in the beating right ventricle of the heart of the mountain south. We're going to start tonight with a song that Michael has written titled Homecoming. Michael, would you like to say something about it?
This was written several years ago when I was in Nashville working as a songwriter, and I was given a script for a film. The song didn't make it into the film, but it remains one of my favorites. About my life growing up in the mountains is where it turned out. So this is called Homecoming. 1, 2, 3, 4. If I die in this place so far from home, and I never make my living from my native soil again, don't leave me where these strangers walk across my bones. Take me back and lay me with my next of kin. But there were many things my father could not say. He turned aside and swung a rod and kept his feelings locked inside. But when things around the home place went from bad to worse to stay, he sat in silence with my brother as I said goodbye. Homecoming dreams are bittersweet to the taste. Homecoming promises are hope to the displaced. They echo through my soul with the distant music of amazing grace. Let there be a homecoming someday. I have learned to breathe beneath the sea of light. I've won and lost and paid the cost to find a future for myself. But the ties of blood and earth still bind across the years and the miles. And in my memories, the old ways still are dearly held. Homecoming dreams are bittersweet to the taste. Homecoming promises are hope to the displaced. They echo through my soul with the distant music of amazing grace. Let there be a homecoming someday. Well, I've been cursed as a deserter, prayed for like a prodigal son. Seems no matter where I've turned, my loyalties have fallen under the gun, under the gun. Well, homecoming dreams are bittersweet to the taste. Homecoming promises are hope to the displaced. They echo through my soul with the distant music of amazing grace. Let there be homecoming someday. There'll be a homecoming someday. All right, that's Homecoming. I'm going to read just a short passage from a story in my collection of Twilight Reel. This is from the story, I think of it as a calendar because it's a year of stories, 12 of them, one set in each month of 1999. So I think of this one as the July story. It's called The Invisible World Around Us, Around Them. And in this story, a fiddler named Mike Fredericks has returned to his parents' home in Runyon, where the collection is set, Runyon, North Carolina, to celebrate his 39th birthday and to tell his parents of his impending death due to illness. The only birthday gift he's asked for is a long drive through the mountains and a picnic somewhere along the way. And in this excerpt, his father, Gene, wakes in the night before the birthday drive. Sometime in the night, he didn't turn to look at the clock. Gene awoke to find himself still lying on his back, his fingers laced together behind his head. He lay naked beneath only a sheet that covered his right leg and his groin and belly. He felt the chill of the air conditioning on his exposed skin and thought that must have awakened him. He lay in the dark, his head turned toward a window that framed a handful of stars hanging above the hills between their home and Runyon. He listened to Catherine breathe, to the breathy whir of the ceiling fan, to the almost imperceptible hum of the air conditioner. His own breath was shallow and trembled in his chest as it rose and fell. Beneath his breath, he felt his heart beat, something he couldn't recall noticing before. His breath sharpened with an edge of fear, and the movement of his heart quickened. Without forethought or warning, he drew a sudden deep breath like a man just breaking the surface of some body of water. And as he exhaled, he calmed. And as he calmed, he turned his thoughts away from breath and blood to think about the plan for his son's birthday. So then he thinks through a paragraph of the route that he's going to take through the mountains. Just as he brought them home in his mind, he heard Mike's fiddle. He couldn't tell where it came from, the boy's old room, the kitchen table, the front porch, maybe the yard or the edge of the woods. He didn't know the tune, but it was slow and sweet and clear to be hushed as it was. He listened sleepily to the melody pushing against the quiet night, like light pushing against darkness, like life pushing against the horrors of blood and body. Tears stung and then warmed his eyes. The music swirled around him like wind, lifted him, carried him down Baylor Run and through the night-lit and deserted streets of Runyon. He floated on it across the dark French Broad River and passed through the murky woods, up and up the far mountainside toward Piney Ridge. Invisible to all the sleeping world, an owl watched him pass by, and a fox, weaving its way through the underbrush, stopped in mid-stride and lifted its head to sniff the night. The wave of music paused when it reached the churchyard behind Piney Ridge Holiness Tabernacle. There it became a swirl of rich red light and ebbed among the headstones until it lingered and steadily pulsed above the graves of Catherine's parents. Then, like the sudden passion of anger or love, it rose and carried him through the star-dusted night sky to Granger Gosnell's place, where it calmed again and swirled and slowly wrapped itself around the house. He saw Granger still sitting in the wheelchair at the window, his head leaned back on a pillow, his mouth open for ragged breaths, and Ollie at the table in the brightly lit kitchen, a book in front of her and one hand laid flat on her belly. In the space of a heartbeat, he found himself back on the Runyon side of the river, where the light hovered curious around the empty house on Riverview Trail that still echoed with a kindred spirit. A magenta tone pulsed steadily at its heart, and the moment before the light rose again like flame bursting through the roof of a burning house, rising above the silver and dark campus and town, above ancient haze-shawled Lonesome Mountain, finally leaving Gene Fredericks floating helplessly in its black wake until he lost sight of that light in the roseate brilliance of a yet distant morning. Thanks.
Oh, Hello again, everybody. It's just striking me what a good thing it is to be in a friend's office and to see all the books on the bookcases and get to understand even more about them by reading the spines. I have three poems for you. The first one is titled Molly in a Red Wig Plays a Fiddle. Molly asked me to take the hanging guitar held suspended from its two-prong hook screwed to the wall.
Go a little slower.
Yes, I will. I'm sorry. Molly asked me to take the hanging guitar held suspended from its two-prong hook screwed to the wall. The guitar is her brother's, custom made in Vietnam. A body brown as rue. Its head and neck completely filigreed in inlaid nacre. Hank is working as a lawyer in Saigon. At first, I close my eyes and let my searching fingers find the old positions. As in rhythm I start strumming 1, 4, 5. She never names the tunes she plays, just calls them old ones. Gaelic melodies through Appalachian ache, discovered by a West Coast woman, traveled more than I will ever travel. Do you know some Hank? She asked me. Which old Hank, I think? Your brother whose guitar I'm courting now, or everybody's Hank? I smile and nod. I wonder which of them she'll draw. I saw the light. Your cheating heart? No, neither one will fit tonight. She settles on a plaintive, I'm so lonesome I could cry. And I'm watching Molly's bow. She never counts. Her timing shifts for feeling. She keeps playing till imagined dancers drop, and neither of us knows the lyrics front to back. They're just familiar lonesome lines the other guests forgot the words to. First duet, Too Blue, October evening, excuse me. I've never been asked to speak slower before. Okay, this poem is titled Thomas Croft's and I Consider Haruspication and Routine Examinations of Middle-Aged Men. Haruspication is divining the future by reading entrails. Outside the English building, near the street, I hold the map to my most inner self. The pink and rounded corridor of flesh provided me when I awoke from dark in digital 600 DPI. My name in bold across the top, results of test, the endoscopic plumber's snake they probed down my esophagus to foretell all. My printout prophecy provided me and Thomas Croft's medievalist the chance and welcome opportunity to mourn the mystery of life, now mapped the way an unmanned Google car can plot a town. I told him how the sweat bees sting. A vein on my right hand felt nothing like the bland green plastic guide they had me bite down on, so that the camera probe would never touch my teeth. My swollen, bitten lips, my fog and doubt of what I might have said as I awoke from anesthetic sleep. And yet, he said, far more routine and comic goes the colonoscopy, in through the out, as Led Zepp punned, another orifice, another oracle, to the same end, to read our guts and tell us times to come. Those times to come, before us stand in scrubs of rainbow hue to designate the role of each, a surgeon's staff, encircling one who lies beneath an arc of burning white, his abdomen split open to reveal the sum of what has been and what's to come. The surgeon speaks. Let's have a poke around. He has a chance at 20 years, but see his gut distended. Tears and tissue here, the liver knobbiness. Just close him up. Supine, the patient turns to smile at us, to gesture Blue Cross has okayed our turn, extended palm of state insured, in full. I smirk to mask my gasp of churning guts, reminded of a vivisected frog my fourth grade teacher, Mrs. Freeman, flayed in front of us, its spinal cord in two from her deft ice-pick plunge. Her thumb was black from silver nitrate. She had stopped me once when I was wiping off electrolyte from naked wires my partner had plugged in. I guess nobody told you, Thomas said. Why is it men die early? 'Cause we can. I heard it echo from the science hall. Then I feel hoarse from laughing. Flecks of blood sprayed on my wrist, and I took off alive, relieved to have a rank companion, free to chide me, send me home to feed my kids, to fall asleep turned on my side, to grasp my sweet one's hip, behind me, the machine that forces breath down through me as I sleep. I think that was my time.
Is that your time?
I believe so.
All right.
We need to play another number.
We're going to do one more song. This one's called Jamboree. Ready?
You bet.
1, 2, 3, 4. Social event of the calendar year, we circled in red hearts and finally near, and a thrill ran through Kayla, and up she jumped to clicking her heels. Her mother's old dancing shoes still had the shine. They had cut many a rug in their time, and on younger feet they would again dance the waltzes and the reels. Come Saturday night with the bonfires all lit, ale in the keg and the pig on the spit, Joshua stood off alone as the fairgrounds were filled. When the fiddles were fondled and the mandolins rang, he lifted his high, lonely voice and he sang, and it echoed in waves through the misty blue valleys and the hills. Songs for the highland, songs for the sea, songs for the lovers who long to live free from the painful misgiving and the fear of misstep. Let them laugh right out loud and dance wild through the crowded jamboree. Now Joshua's voice caught way down in his chest, seeing the angel in the blue cotton dress. Kayla was a whirling and a twirling to the songs he had made. She danced with the old men and she danced with the boys. The sound of her laughter rose over the noise. She and the singer locked eyes and he jumped from the stage. Songs for the highland, songs for the sea, songs for the lovers who long to live free from the painful misgiving and the fear of misstep. Let them laugh right out loud and dance wild through the crowded jamboree. Tell the tale in the local dance halls. The band dropped a beat and swung into a waltz. And Kayla and Joshua glowed, at least that's what is said. walked her home under the October moon. He held her hand gently and he made up a tune. And the band played it sweet the night Kayla and Joshua wed. Well, the songs for the highlands, songs for the sea, songs for the lovers who long to live free from the painful misgiving and the fear of misstep. Let them laugh right out loud and dance wild through the crowded Jamboree. Jamboree, yeah. That's all for us, folks.
Thank you for signing for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes, very much.
I can barely talk. I can barely talk. That was so wonderful. Oh, that was the medicine I needed. That is the medicine I needed today to get me through the next several months that we all know are going to be tedious and difficult, not only with the holidays, but with just being extra careful. But what amazing, amazing work, both of you. I just love the idea of coming together in the summer and hearing y'all play some music and read that work and taking our shoes off and being able to dance with our shoes off. And I'm not embarrassed to say that while I was off camera, I was chair dancing. So I know I wasn't the only one. So thank you both so much.
Right.
I want to remind
Thank you.
I just want to remind everyone that you can get Twilight Reel. These are stories, and that's real, REEL, at bookshop.org, and that's Michael's book. And then Thomas Allen's book, In the Backhoe's Shadow, is scheduled for early 2022, and that's irisbooks.com. So be sure to get Michael's now and be on the lookout. Keep checking back at Iris Books because they'll pre-sale going real soon, I bet. So so be sure and do that because you've heard these marvelous words that these two men put together and are willing to share. So let's lift them up. And thank you both so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
Oh, goodness. Well, it's hard, and I'm quite a talker. So when it's hard for me to say something, then you know. So tonight we are having a marvelous, marvelous evening, and it's not over yet. And so I have the distinct pleasure of introducing Nicole Brown. Nicole Brown is the author of Sister and Fanny Says. She lives in Asheville, North Carolina, where she volunteers at several animal sanctuaries. And I'll tell you, folks, she is such a nurturer and such a caring, loving person of people and critters. And it's just heartwarming to see. To those who are our first gods was her chapbook that was chosen as the 2018 Rattle Prize. And this is a marvelous book that talks a lot about how she feels about our four-legged friends who sometimes end up three-legged and worse. And she loves to nurture them back to health. The Donkey Elegies was published by Sibling Rivalry Press in 2020. And in 2021, Spruce Books of Penguin Random House published Write It, 100 Prompts to Inspire. And this is a book she co-authored with her wife, Jessica Jacobs, which we'll be hearing from as well. And they regularly teach generative writing sessions together as part of their Sun in June literary collaborative. And I feel very certain that they will be telling us a little bit more about that, and hopefully, and I will put in the chat how to get involved in their writing workshops. And really the first step is to buy this marvelous book that has all kinds of prompts and places to write. And it's just fabulous. So you need to get you one of these, and I'll tell you where. So we're going to start out this evening with Nicole. So I'll give Nicole a moment to collect herself and come on.
Thank you so much, Carrie. I tell you what, not only are you a person that makes me feel at home, you're a person that makes me feel downright homesick. Like I just everything about you, from your generative sessions to your poetry, and I just really feel blessed to be in this space. And Devin, thank you for your time. And the ASL interpreters, Miko and Joe, thank you so much. It's just wonderful watching these words and music kind of come to life through the hands. It's really beautiful. So I am a pale white woman. I've got some big hair that is managed by a lot of product right now. So I guess you could call it curly, but that's just on a good day. Mostly it's just frizzy. I'm wearing an embroidered top, and I have a cicada necklace around my neck. So I was thinking about what to read tonight, and I'm really excited this year. My baby sister is coming in town, and we're going to spend Thanksgiving together, which we've never had a chance to do. And I've been thinking about the holiday, which is, you know, the time of gratitude and of coming together, and of course of some really amazing food. But it's also a difficult holiday as well. Jessica and I live here in Asheville, North Carolina, which is on the unceded land of the Cherokee people, an eastern band of the Cherokee people in particular, and it makes that holiday really hard to hold sometimes. And there are other reasons why not just Thanksgiving, but Christmas tend to be really difficult. So what I wanted to do then was read 3 poems that center on that holiday. The first 2 poems are a bit longer, so just stick with me. And then the last one is shorter. So yeah. So the first poem, perhaps I could say, you know, what do you get when a cat walks into a gay bar? And the answer would be this poem. The title is longer. The title is Holding That Gaping Empty Till It Stills, or My Cat, Harvey Milk. So that's Holding That Gaping Empty Till It Stills, or My Cat, Harvey Milk. Not the paw, but the fan of bones in the paw. Their scoop and clutch, kneading made kneading. Because when it comes to mother milk, those homonyms upend their vowels, throw that needless K away. Making biscuits, we tease, but in reality, what we witness is vestigial, hotly nostalgic. Or in the case of the viral-eyed meow mix scooped up from the pound and named Harvey Milk, our cat, Jesus, be my shield, is a biscuit making is a downright fix, a thing not cute, but urgent, gone nuclear, dilated and drooling, a beast born of a mall massage chair and one hideous factory farm teat machine, the corner of his victim's shirt pinched between needle teeth, revved by an engine that runs so hard that once a telemarketer stopped her rehearsed pitch to say, "My God, is that a cat?" I can hear him purring clear through the phone. Supervisor Milk, we call him, trying not to conjure up that awful murder or that sick Twinkie defense, but instead pay homage to the river of candles lit for that San Francisco hero. How much courage it took to take a stand, even in that city, especially then. And so too I ache for every knock-kneed kid once far from that coast, caught in the shed with a sweetheart of the same sex, the same stuttering kind of shame etched on the faces of those boys I adored at the bar, all those I called my chosen family, my rainbow coalition of support. How we would slapdash a Thanksgiving together, marrying one block of Velveeta, 2 cans of asparagus, and a crushed box of saltines into a trailer park casserole fit for us queens. Ruching white bed sheets over milk crates to conjure a dining room table, saying it was the best we could do with our butler on leave and all. And oh, we would laugh and laugh, naming our little ragtag holiday tribe the island of misfit toys, pouring Cosmo after Cosmo, sipping the pink with the kind of flair that said, I don't care if I'm not welcome home. Bitches, look at me now. And today, well, I know how they tease if they saw me now. A middle-aged quarantine mess. A legendary fruit fly gone full-on hag. Hair of fright and locked down in a house, writing a poem about a cat of all things. This over-eager biscuit maker, this pesky suckle junkie wetting my sleeve with a lagoon of drool when I try to read and nursing the hem of my jeans when I sit to pee. Neither is it lost on me how this feline scourge, pedigree as he is, came into this world with a ruptured umbilicus. So when the breeder deemed the defect too expensive to fix, he was snatched from the rest of the litter and dumped. Has he missed his family ever since? It's hard to say, but sometimes when his shoulders get cranking as they do, they seem to churn the cadence of mama, mama, please. It's how I was born. It's then I try not to push him again to the floor or scold him much, knowing there's a gaping empty inside him maybe he hardly knows. That same scowling Elijah that once made its place at our raucous feasts, the guest we thought we could keep away with enough glitter and disco. It's then I pick up that frenzy of biscuits, that pain in the ass zombie kitty that won't quit. It's then I hold him tight, tight enough to slow those cogs of desperation clicking within. I know my human arms will never replace what's been taken away, but still, I'm worth something at least when I hear the high trill of a last few lonely notes, knowing at last he feels safe enough to quit his searching and fall asleep. I can't wait to watch this video after to see how my poem translates in ASL. I have a little show and tell for you. This in my hand is a persimmon. If you're not familiar with it, they're very common here in these mountains. It's a hard fruit until it goes ripe. And when you eat it, sometimes it's so soft you could eat it with a spoon. And I always love this sort of carnelian color of it. And this next poem is about the persimmon, and that's the title of the poem, is Persimmons. My friend at Thanksgiving says it's already happened. By it, she means the apocalypse, The end come and gone, but we just haven't felt it yet. Like a body that doesn't know it's dead because the bones of the ear are the last to go. Sound still tickling the brain like wind chimes forgotten in a dead tree. And I don't know what to say, but imagine saffron monks screaming into the ears of their recently deceased and wonder what they might say. Maybe something like, "It's already happened." Or if they might also yell into dead trees in what words I should belt into the beetle-killed hemlocks that barb the mountains here. So many, the canopy creaks and sways the trail, the whole forest of little more than widow makers nowadays. And someone says, "Well, hell, pass the bourbon then." And I do, marveling how easy it is to pick up the bottle with my possibly zombie arm, wondering if it's true that we're living off fumes, maybe already gone. But how would I know? Because I still hear the clink of soup spoons, the ting of the oven working its heat around a turkey that is not a turkey at all, but a miracle of manufactured protein made to make us hippies feel better about giving thanks without dead flesh in our mouths, but still enough to give us that flesh feel, that pleasurable snap back, craving as we do the meaty fight real muscle puts up when chewed, because we are animals who don't want to be animals, but still enjoy the vestige of animal, like the fetal dream of a tail or water-breathing gills once slit into our unborn necks. "It's already over," she adds. "The shortages haven't come, but they will." And so the table grows quiet, and I hear all our little mouth sounds, soft smacking, not unlike the wet popping of fish suffocating in the middle of I-40, month before last, when yet another hurricane receded. The floodwaters leaving behind a city of underwater life stranded miles from their home, a stench that had to be blasted with even more water from a fire hose. The sound grew until someone asks, "Is that fake bird ready yet?" And I get up to check, thinking of meat again, of starving polar bears happy to sink their teeth into dolphins fooled by a warm current gone wrong. Or how I read that octopus were numerous enough to climb out of the sea and drip from trees back when Homer was alive. But last summer in Greece, all I saw were their severed legs drying on laundry lines. I can hardly swallow any of it, so my brain takes me somewhere I can go, to a small thing I can manage, a quiet panic over a persimmon, because petty as I am, I fret if next month I won't be able to find them at the store. It doesn't make sense other than to say I never paid much attention to those little edible carnelians, those dusty Ozark tomatoes. But now that they might be gone, I'm suddenly homesick for that stubborn country girl produce, hard as they are at first, always tongue parchingly tannic long before finally giving in and turning themselves into a spoon slick kiss of sweet hiding under that thick skin. There's little else I can do, dead as I might be. So I vow, come December, to fill my cart with them once more, no matter how much they cost. I vow to do what humans do, to greedily stuff into my body the thing I want most to remember. And I will eat and eat and eat them, making myself sick, testing with my tongue the knowledge of fruit that takes its sweet time to ripen, sometimes taking months after it was yanked from its branch, as if it could live forever on the memory of what it once was. And I'll end with a poem that's hopefully on a happier note. I won't take you to the apocalypse and just leave you stranded there. I hope that a lot of you will be wearing some elastic waisted pants next Thursday. And if so, and after you feel the need for a New Year's resolution, here's your solution. It's called A Diet Plan That Works. And it opens with an epigraph by Virginia Woolf. One cannot think well, love well, sleep well, if one has not dined well. So a diet plan that works. Do not buy like the nouveau riche, tin of black caviar, sad plate of parrotfish, marbled pink slab of exotic meat served with expensive and appropriately dry wine. Fill your cart instead with things to make you feel rich. The old flesh of artichoke hearts, the slippery vowels of asparagus and arugula and Asiago, bread with an uneven leaven of holes. Buy things still teeming, invisible cultures swimming in a cup, hot colors soaked in sun, so far from this winter your palms ache with the bright, hot light of oranges. Display the carrots with their full peacock greens on the counter next to cheese that glistens with the softness of slow time. This is what you've worked for, leaving behind those dim nights nuked with infomercials, the fluorescent maraschino, the milky dressings, cheap blue water. Let go a past of unwieldy proportions, perishables, sealed in boxes and cans, all those puffed, sugared, colored mornings that tore your mouth to shreds. This is what you always wanted. The cool fruit held to your face, its sweetness given to your hunger. Cherish it, think it. Let your teeth break the skin with the sound that reminds you of weeds pulled from the garden. A pop that sounds like one sound, but is in fact made of many. Each white strand snapped from the dark, a sound of letting go, 100 letting goes, a sound of a thing dying under your grip, yes, but not unlike the sound made by that stubborn horse who refused the trail for a moment to lean his bridled head down to this earth to stop, to chew.
Oh my goodness. One thing I didn't mention is that I have heard Nicole read before. I'm so very lucky, and maybe some of you have as well. But I spend time in the summers at Heinemann Settlement School for the week-long writers workshop. And that's when I first met Nicole and was able to work with her, and just an amazing time of fellowship and shenanigans. And so I have had the pleasure of hearing her read. But what always happens to me is when Nicole reads, I'm at church, because I find myself making those noises that I make in church of because you just can't help it, because that's what it feels like. It feels like scripture. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming, Nicole, and sharing your beautiful work with us this evening. Thank you so
and
much.
I hope to see you at Hyman this coming summer.
Oh, that'd be wonderful.
Yep. I'm going
Let's
to
hope
be
we
there.
let's hope we can actually meet in person. Wouldn't that be wonderful? I think they're going to try to do both, from what I can tell. So, well, we have even more pleasure this evening, if you can believe it. And I know it's hard to believe. We also have with us tonight Jessica Jacobs, which seems like a dream. I have also had the pleasure of working with Jessica through their online workshops, which I spoke about earlier, through their Write It program. And I put that information in the chat for all of you, so that if you're interested, you might want to join their workshops. And basically what you do is you reach out to them at sunandjune.org, and they will put you on their list, their email list, and they will invite you to come. And it's really quite wonderful. And meantime, don't forget to buy their book. As I said again, full of prompts and places to write ideas. This is a journal as well, and it's just fabulous. So let me tell you a little bit about Jessica. Jessica Jacobs is the author of Take Me With You Wherever You're Going through Four-Way Books, one of Library Journal's best poetry books of the year, winner of the Devil's Kitchen and Goldie Awards, and a finalist for the Brockman Campbell American Fiction and Julie Suck Book Awards. Wow. Her debut collection, Pelvis with Distance, through White Pine Press, a biography and poems of Georgia O'Keeffe, won the New Mexico Book Award in Poetry and was a finalist for the Lambda Literary Award. She's an avid long-distance runner, has worked as a rock climbing instructor, bartender, and professor, and now serves as the chapbook editor for Beloit Poetry Journal. She also lives in Asheville with her wonderful wife, the poet Nicole Brown, which we've had the pleasure of hearing. And again, they co-authored Write It, 100 Poetry Prompts. And she's at work on a collection of poems exploring the book of Genesis. So we've got that to look forward to. So, okay, just pinch me, because now, on top of everything else, we're going to hear the amazing Jessica Jacobs. Jessica.
Oh, thank you so much, Carrie. Thank you. And thank you, Devin. You've created such an incredible space here. And I'm just honored to be here with Nicole. And thank you, Thomas and Michael. I'm excited to hear from you during the Q&A as well. And Nico and Joe, it's an honor to have my poems in your hands. So thank you. I am a olive-skinned white woman with long brown hair that I do believe I remember to brush in honor of this reading. And I am wearing a Hamsa necklace, which will hopefully keep the evil eye away from us all. So, as Carrie said, Nicole took her to church, so I guess I might be taking you to synagogue if you'll come along with me. The last 4 years or so, I have been spending time with the book of Genesis, and I'm almost done with an entire collection of poems responding to the book of Genesis. And it has me thinking about a lot of things, but one of the central ones is questions of faith, of belief in God, and what that concept even means. So I'm going to begin with a poem that starts in New York, which is where I used to live in the city in Manhattan, and ends up here in North Carolina. Ordinary imminence. In New York, sidewalks were so crowded, it was easier to walk in the street, and 3 stories up from all the elbows and breath, always the same city dream. In the back of my cramped apartment, a door I'd somehow not seen. I'd press my ear to it and hear the cavernous echo of air arcing through hidden, innumerable rooms. Rooms I owned, but had never entered. Many years, many states away, in a far more spacious place. At the braking of a garbage truck, at the creak and hoist of its mechanical arm, pinioning a block's length of bins to hoist and dump, I look up from a book and know. The truck outside rumbling away, my waste fraternizing with the waste of my neighbors, that I want to believe in God. Just like that. A new door in a room I thought I knew by heart. My hand is on the doorknob now, my ear to the grain. But what I hear is the crackling hum of light bulbs above, the tissued whisper of an iris opening, the deep breathing of the daily world. Nothing from the other side. How do you listen for a sound you've never heard? Or more precisely, for a sound you know so well, you've never heard it. But of course, if many of the stories in Genesis are about anything, they are about the real danger of absolute belief. And I think we see that carried out throughout history, people who act on faith alone. And we see it recently with people justifying their actions in all kinds of ways. And this really centers for me around the story of the binding of Isaac by his father, Abraham. And there's an epigraph from the philosopher Eric Hoffer. Absolute faith corrupts as absolutely as absolute power. Why there is no Hebrew word for obey. What came later was the real trial, because God knew Isaac would not die, while Abraham climbed the mountain believing he would. With conviction tempered in the fires of his faith, he'd walked up through the shaded valley, his son resolute ahead on the trail. Behind them, Sarah, Isaac's mother, Abraham's wife, a small darkness in the distance, growing forever smaller. He bound his beloved son, pulled back, his legs wrenched back, his arms knotted, his ankles to his wrists, and laid him on that altar like a child falling through the sky. He'd held the knife, knowing from every animal he'd ever sacrificed how his son would jerk and shudder when the blade opened his throat. The familiar smoke of offered flesh. What came later was, even with Isaac alive in the fields, inside Abraham was the knowledge of what he'd been willing to do. When they passed in the tent, Isaac rubbed a remembered ache in his shoulders and never again held his father's eye. Sarah, smelling the imagined rashes on her husband's fingers, the blood in the crease of his throat, turned from him in the night. And on every path Abraham walked from that day forward, his son as he had been, a small back barely the span of his hand, slung with the kindling meant for his burning. Seconds from the slaughter of the one meant to carry his line, of the son he'd wanted all his life, who's to say the voice in his head was God? Judaism is not a faith, but a tradition. Doubt the crux of its conscience. Yet what came later on a Sabbath morning, centuries on, was a congregation in Pittsburgh reading this story of Isaac's binding, of Abraham's terrible bind, when a man burning with unquestioning belief entered with a gun and, with no better angel to stay his hand, opened fire, believing the death of Jews would keep our country safe, believing this massacre, elderly congregants bleeding out on the floor, was God's work. Who would call such actions holy? And how many more times will each of us come down from the mountain, conviction knocking like a knife in our belt loop, stained with all we would have done? My daily gods are minor ones, of pride, of lust, of impatience and ease. Yet how many have I harmed on the way to what I thought was right? Or, with hindsight, on the way to what I wanted? What if we turn instead from certainty and arm ourselves with questions? Obey, obey, obey is everywhere in translation. The real word is shema, listen. So there's several centuries of rabbinic writing around the stories in the Torah. And a lot of it kind of speculates on why people do what they do, but it also tells stories outside of the text. And one of those stories, because right after this, within Genesis, in the next section, Sarah dies, Isaac's mother dies. And there's a midrashic tale that he dies because while they're up on the mountain, Satan visits her and lies to her and says that not that the death was averted, but that Abraham actually went through with it. And this gave me an opportunity to think about my own mother and to think about the dementia that she's dealing with right now. And this poem begins with a quote from that story, that midrashic story. "If God has chosen me," Isaac replied, "I shall willingly surrender my soul. But I am gravely concerned about my mother." Kaddish for the living. While Abraham and Isaac were up on the mountain, Satan dropped by to Schrödinger Sarah, saying her son was dead, but not. Unable to hang on that particular cliff, her heart plunged over and, before the story's end, stopped. Stopped as a perpetual motion machine given in to its own impossibility, though how we love the myth of them, how we believe our bodies are until they abruptly aren't. As the brakes on my bike, which the mechanic said were worn to paper, worn out from working so well for so long. As my mother's mind. Like Isaac, my mother is dead, but not. The automatic operations lost, driving, turning on a stove, following a plot, while the ingrained etiquette remains. Lawyer, wife, mother, no longer, yet still a sweet shadow in the soundtrack of every call home. In the mourner's cottage, death is not mentioned, just praise and petitions for peace. Though only noon, I tucked her into bed, and though she breathed beside me, I was saying goodbye. There is so much guilt in my grief, but oh, I mourn her, while I still hold her in my arms, while I fit my body to hers, like a cloak, like a shield, like she taught me. And like Nicole, I will try to go up emotionally with the last poem, though we'll stick with Abraham. And she began with a poem about our cat, Harvey Milk. I will end with a poem about our older dog, Rocco. It's about other stuff too, but he's in there. Mazel tov. Circular breather, our dog can whine without ceasing, his tail thumping the wall beside the bed to call me up and out to the yard instead. In the moonlight, the hydrangea's white blossoms are a zodiac of branch-bound constellations. Once God called Abraham out from his tent to the open field to count the uncountable lights in the sky, promising offspring bountiful as dust, numerous as the stars. Like Abraham, I too left my land, my birthplace, my father's house. But the closest I have to an offspring is lifting his leg at the azaleas, nose busy with the news the night air brings. Mazel tov, we say at births and other joyous occasions, the Jewish go-to for congratulations. Yet tov means good, and mazel constellation or destiny. And sometimes, like Abraham, you must leave the place that grew you to grow toward better stars. In the house, my wife is sleeping. Along the fence top, a procession of possums reminds that even in darkness, there are those who can see. Above, trees thick with summer frame a porthole of sky. Maybe, though, it's not always the stars that matter, but the space between them, the lines we draw to shape the absence, the lives we forge around what goes missing. From the deck, the cool breeze makes a festival of the silver-lit leaves. Under my palm, there's the warmth of his fur, the rise of his ribs. He doesn't know his kidneys are failing, that his muzzle is white as the winter our vet has said he will not live to see. Like all of us, he is dying. Like most of us, he doesn't know it. His chin on my leg, he trusts me with the weight of his head. So if I wish you mazel tov, know what I mean is, may you find a reason to open your door to the dark. I mean, may you live beneath good stars and take the time to notice. Thank you so much.
I'm sorry. I did okay until you talked about your dog dying, and then I was a goner. But the blessing at the end is just so beautiful. And I wish that we would all think that, that we would all hold ourselves in that manner and compare ourselves with most animals who are ever so much better than we are. And Jessica, I'm so excited for your new collection. I think it's going to be just amazing and such a topic to tackle, you know. So thank you both again so very much, and thank you, Alan and Michael. This has been such a joy tonight. And just very quickly, I want to remind everyone again that you can find out more about Jessica at jessicajacobs.com. Her books are all listed there if you want to buy those books tonight. Nicole's is Nicole Brown. Now, she spells her name Nickole. Okay, so NicoleBrown.com. You can get involved in their classes. Their website is sunjune.org. And then A Twilight Reel Stories by Michael can be found at bookshop.org. And in the Backhoe Shadow is coming very soon from Iris Press, and that's Alan's book. So get yourselves busy while I'm just talking here, and go ahead and order your books tonight, or you can go to Stuart's main page and click the education tab and scroll down, and they're all there, and it's real easy to click those and just go right there, and I probably take PayPal or whatever. So you can do that very quickly. So this is the time I usually ask the audience if they have any questions for any of our folks that are here with us tonight. And this is such a great opportunity, everyone. Surely you have questions for these marvelous featured guests. And I hope that you would put them in the chat. I don't see any in the Q&A, so maybe someone will put one in the chat. If not, I have some just very mediocre questions that I can ask that might start things off. And also, for instance, Nicole and Jessica, if you have questions for Thomas, Alan, and Michael, then you could do that as well. But I'll kind of get things started, and if y'all want to turn your mics. So what I'm interested in concerning Alan and Michael is I want to know more about how the two of you fell in together. You're obviously both instructors, you're professors, but I'm sure it's a lot more than that. So tell us.
Well, let's see. Alan was already here at ETSU when I came. Let's see. In March of 2001, I came to interview, and he picked me up for breakfast that morning before the campus interview, and so that's where it started. And since then, we've done a lot of work together in various capacities around the department and campus, and we play in a couple of bands together. We have Leather Guinevere. That's kind of an odd. How would you describe Leather Guinevere?
Leather Guinevere permits us to play whatever it is that we want to play. So, a lot of it is dad rock and whatever might embarrass our kids. So we do that. And then our second band is Karen Shaka's Army, which we named after a colleague that we lost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
10 years ago yesterday. She was a big fan of new wave pop. So we perform it with really unusual instrumentation, and fortunately we've expanded that. We have another couple of members of our department who play in that band. Thomas Crofts, who is a real person, by the way, is our percussionist. He's a percussionist and a medievalist, which makes a really deadly combination. And then the chair of our department, Dan Westover, is usually the vocalist for the Karen Shaka's Army. We raise money for our Women, Gender, and Sexuality Studies program when we hold those concerts.
Oh, that's marvelous. I just love that. I would love to come in for one of those. It's kind of a far piece for me to drive, but I've definitely been to Johnson City, so I think I could find my way there again.
Oh, you should.
Me and Devin are coming. You got to let us know the next one. Devin and I are hopping in the car and coming down. That's what we're going to do.
Yeah, Karen Shaka's Army is an '80s band. So we play "Hungry Like the Wolf." We play,
Yes.
um,
Aha, take on
some
me.
Aha, yeah.
We have to have big hair and big
Soft
bangs.
Cell. Yeah,
Big bangs.
no.
Yeah,
no.
no.
I wear the hat for the show.
Oh my goodness, I love that. Thank you so much. We actually have a question from our audience, and the question is, do you have any advice for those just starting their writing? So just starting their writing career, what sort of advice do you all give?
My thing, I think, is just enjoy the writing. That's the gift, I think, is to take that and just work on that and do all you can with that, and not worry too much about the publication. That's kind of a side trip. The writing for me is the journey.
I would suggest that when you have the opportunity to see readings, that you go to them. Nicole was going to be our guest here at East Tennessee State right when the pandemic knocked us out of, and I'm hoping that we can extend an invitation to her again once we figure out how we can navigate the new protocols. So we always encourage our students to go and see readings when they have the opportunity, but just to get an idea that there's people who practice literature in your midst can make a big difference to our literature students.
I think that's really good advice. And by the way, I am fully vaccinated and boosted. So if you want me to make my way to Johnson City, I'm ready to go.
We'll tell Jesse.
I think and if I were to think about like advice for writing, I think that writers are above everything else noticers. That our job as a writer is to pay attention. So if you're starting out as a writer, do all you can to really pay attention to things around you, and that means paying attention to things that are hard to look at, things that you perhaps might want to turn away from, which is really important in terms of social justice, but then also in terms of things that are more difficult to look at in your history, in your family. But that also means paying attention to everyday, banal, throwaway things that you see over and over and over again that you might not even notice anymore. An apple sitting on the kitchen table, your cat in the window, just things that you might want to see.
And I would just add to that, because I absolutely agree. I think writing can also feel a little lonely. And a good way to help with that is, yes, definitely attend readings, watch readings online, but read as much as you can. And you want to read people who are doing things that you want to do, but you can't do yet. And you're going to keep reading and taking them in until you are so inspired, you have to write your own poems to answer them back. And they're going to kind of bring you up, right? Because they're writing so beautifully. So just put yourself in really good company.
Yeah. And I would echo too, the note about publishing, just wait, because there's a big difference between writing to communicate versus writing to impress. And a lot of people, when they start writing, they're thinking about where they can publish and what they can publish, and they end up not just speaking like themselves. They're writing into something they think they should be.
Yeah.
And publication, I think, is a gift that comes after years of apprenticeship.
And we are certainly glad that our first publications are not available online.
Oh, Lord. Yep. I am so glad my MFA thesis, bottom drawer, baby, is gone.
I know one thing that I give new writers advice about is basically what you all are saying, is write from your sense of place. You own a place in this world that no one else has. You have had experiences no one else has had. And believe it or not, people want to hear about them. So just write what you know. Start with what you know. And then, like everyone is saying, then you can expand out. You can do your research. But really just start with what you know the best about. Write about that. Your people, your ancestors, where you live. Just as both Nicole and Jessica wrote about their beloved family member who happens to be a dog. These are the things that people want to hear about, and they're right in front of you. So again, observing. So I think that's a lovely question. Trying to see if we have another one here. Do any of you keep lists of words and phrases which pique your interest but do not yet inspire a poem?
Hold it. Who's on the mic?
Oh.
Michael showed me one just today. Apparently, there's a special word for 62-year-old people.
63-year-old.
63-year-old people.
We are both approaching 63. I'm approaching quickly. It's next Thursday, and his is next summer. But there is a word for the 63rd birthday, which I'm sure Alan will work into a poem, called the grand climacterical. So that's the 63rd birthday, is the grand climacterical.
It sounds like a bone, but
When I'm working on a particular set of poems, a lot of times I keep what I call my darlings folder. So if I have like lines or phrases that aren't quite working yet, but I'm really excited about, and they haven't found a home, I put them all into one document. And what I think about then is collaborating with my past self. So if I get really stuck, I can just start reading that document. And a lot of times the first or the last line of my next poem is just there waiting for me. So yeah, I think it's a beautiful thing to have. And then, you can turn to your own writing for inspiration sometimes too.
And right now I'm keeping two lists. One list is a list of vocabulary I'm learning as I research animals. And it's been really important to me because I'm finding that with the blessing of each word, I'm taught to see something new, perhaps that I never even noticed before, because science is just really cool like that. And then, yeah, I know. And then I have another list where I write down expressions, particularly from my family in Kentucky, because I'm terribly afraid of their way of speaking disappearing.
yes.
And some of it's just funny as all hell, so you got to write it down anyways. I was on the phone with my Aunt Tony the other day, and she said something along the lines of, not I'm bored, but I'm just sitting here eating shit with the chickens. And I was like, it's going on the list, yeah, Tony, right? Because it's just like, it's just so like, listen, music, right? And it's funny, and I don't want the way that she talks. I don't want it to go away. So Carrie's right about writing from place too. For a long time, I thought that way of speaking had no room in a poem, and then I realized, oh wait, that's where the poem begins.
Yes. Oh my goodness. And we have another question. Oh, Doc just wanted to share with you all that his is 150 pages long. His lists. So he's been at it a while, hasn't he? I think that's marvelous. Oh my gosh. So one other question I had, unless anybody else has one, because I don't want to take the stage here, but I was interested, because now we know that, Nicole, we know you're going to be at Hyman this summer. So for anyone interested, that's Hyman Settlement School, and they have a week-long writer's workshop, and you have the opportunity to work with folks just like Nicole and hone your skills. And like I said, it's very social as well. It's just a wonderful environment, fabulous people. They all, those who are instructors, if you want to call them that. They are so much more than that, but they give so much of themselves. And it's a very unique environment in which you stay on campus and have your meals all together and just literally spend a week together. It's just kind of amazing. You know, I've never seen one fist fight. And I'm glad of that. And then I know there's a question here. And Jessica, I know that you're finishing up work on your book concerning the book of Genesis. So we know that, but I have a feeling there's probably a little bit more in there that's going on with the two of you. Do you have anything else you could share with us that we might look for coming up?
Well, we are actually both going to be teaching down in Seaside, Florida in May. So if you want to come to Florida in May,
And it's in person as far as we know.
Yeah, so it's just called the Conference at Seaside, and we'll both be on faculty there. I think it's about a week, and we miss seeing people in person, so come hang out with us.
Yeah, and that we've also, during the pandemic, we established a literary collaborative, which has been mentioned before, the Sun June Literary Collaborative, and we have the free generative sessions we teach online every month, which has already been mentioned in the chat, but we also regularly teach workshops through Sun June online, and we'll most likely be teaching more of those in the fall, I think.
Well, and Laurent Bosselaar, who's a phenomenal Belgian-American poet, is also teaching with us, and she'll be offering some new workshops in the spring, and that's a chance to get a lot more feedback. But yeah, you can find us. We have our calendars online, and we're always kind of adding some stuff. I think we're going to be at the Clemson Literary Festival as well.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I can't remember when that's coming up.
South
but
Carolina.
sometime soon. But thank you for asking, Carrie.
Oh no, that's wonderful, because we want to keep tabs on you all, especially your readings, and those that we may even be able to attend virtually, even though we can't travel to where you are, which is always just such a wonderful option now. I know it's been said 100 times now, but that's the only good thing. Well, one of the only good things that's come out of the pandemic is that we've made all these connections through our virtual outreach to one another, and we're all getting so comfortable with it now that that it's not so troublesome or irksome as it once was. So, but there's nothing like live. That's true, and will always be true. To sit in the same room with someone is just so special. But this has been good. Well, I will take just 1 minute to say, I don't know if anybody else in the audience might like to share a quick poem or a song or a very short story with us tonight. If so, you could put your name in the chat. And let's see if anybody's saying that. Okay. People want to know how they can copy the chat. And if you go to the bottom of the chat window, over on the right-hand side at the bottom, there are 3 little dots there. If you click on that, it says Save Chat. And it'll save the entire chat for you so that you can get out some of those wonderful song titles and poem titles that Devin put in there for us. And it'll go into your documents folder, wherever that is on your computer screen. So you can put that, you can keep that and go back to it later. And if it's not showing up for you, I have no idea what that means. That has something to do on your end, not my end or Devin's end.
We're looking at it on Zoom.
Yeah, that's happening. Yeah. So let me see here. So Doc, were you wanting to read a poem? Is that what you're saying? Or are you just wanting to know about the chat? Let's see. Oh, both. Okay. So Devin, could you let Doc Jennings in? He'd like to share a poem with us tonight. And we'll all turn off our video so that we don't prohibit you doing that, Doc.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Very good. Hold on a second. Something is not acting right here. Okay. This is titled Joy of Time. In but a moment of happiness, a moment of you and I, seeming two, conversing, communing. We are immersed in the Tao of being and beauty of life, amid songs of stars. A moment of darshan, darshan with the multiverse, darshan with each other. The joy of eons surrounds us. Self to self, we are as one. Our we become an us. Our souls entwine, leaving earth behind. For our world, a world of two moons. Memories of the future, spoken in voices of time. Thank you.
Well, that certainly seemed appropriate, Doc. Thank you so much for sharing that poem with us tonight. That was just wonderful and a very nice treat indeed. Well, I guess we have no other questions, and it looks like no one else would like to share a poem tonight. I'm going to give it one more minute to see if anybody has changed their mind, but I don't see it. So this is, as I said, our last gathering for the fall, and that again seems bittersweet to me, but this evening has been enough to fill me up. Oh, it's been so marvelous. And so it's got to last me till February unless I can find y'all out there some elsewhere, and I'm sure I will. But I, of course, want to thank all the good folks at Stewart's Opera House, and especially Devin, who has just been so good to us over this time of throughout the fall months. This is the time we set aside for Thanksgiving, and I just want to take this opportunity to once again, like I said, thank Devin and everyone at Stewart's. I want to thank our ASL interpreters for their passion and their love and their exhausting work to bring these beautiful words to everyone, so everyone can hear. I want to shout out a thank you to Donna Holt Collins and her amazing staff at the Ohio Arts Council. Thanks to them, so many wonderful things happen in Southeastern Ohio that would not be able to happen without them. And I'm grateful. Stewart's is grateful. So many of us here in Ohio, Appalachia proper are just so grateful to the Arts Council. And I want to thank my family and friends for always standing with me, no matter what roller coaster I happen to be on at the time. And this last year and a half as Ohio's Poet Laureate has been a wild ride, and I've had a great time, and it's been my great honor to serve. And I want to thank all of you, our guests, all our friends who attend, all those folks who join us, literally thousands of people who join us on YouTube and on my Facebook page to watch these amazing featured poets, writers, songwriters that have come to Southeastern Ohio, so to speak, to share their work with us. And we're so gifted by that. And I thank you all so much. I want y'all once again to think about all of our featured guests from this fall. Go to the Stewart's front door, click on the educations page and buy those books. They make beautiful seasonal gifts. So don't give some silly thing from one of the big box stores. Buy a lovely, beautiful book. You're helping to keep a small press or a university press open. And that's so important during this time of economic hardship. I guess lastly, I just want to say everyone stay safe. And I plan to see you back here in the spring when we have so many additional wonderful people coming to join us and spend time and celebrate the word. So thank you all so much, and seasonal greetings to all. Good night.